Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thoroughly Thriving, where we're putting human back in human capital solutions. On today's episode, we're going to hear from an industry leader where they're sharing their thoughts, feedback, and perspective on what's happening in today's world of work. Well, let's stay tuned and perk our ears up for another exciting episode. Welcome to another episode of Thoroughly Thriving. And boy, do we have a special episode today. I certainly value and love when I have guests on because it just opens up additional horizons and new perspectives. But today we have a special guest, an internal guest, the newest member of the senior team of the Thorough Group. Chad McDonald, who is leading our Northeast practice. So we're excited to have had Chad join just a couple of short weeks ago, and he's already making really good strides, and we appreciate everything that he's contributed to Thorough Group already. And once again, pumped to have him on this podcast. So welcome to the team, and welcome to the Thoroughly Thriving podcast, Chad.
Thanks, Darren. I couldn't be more excited to be here and be part of the Thorough Group family. And I'm really excited to talk with you today and do my first podcast.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, look, I know Sean's excited to have you on.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
To jump in, Chad, we got to know you through many conversations, through mutual connections, former colleagues. And there were so many things that impressed both Sean and I about your background. First, who you are as a human, who you are as a husband and a father of three, and then how you go about supporting the industry that us three are very, very passionate about, life sciences. But given your extensive career, close to 20 years in human capital solutions, share with our audience, Chad, what drew you to Thorough Group at this stage in your career, and what excites you most about stepping into the Northeast practice lead role?
Yeah, great question. And yeah, 20 years, it flies by, But, I would say, in speaking with candidates and clients, one of the things that I always talk about is what's the pull to something new versus what's the push from where you're at. And I think, focusing on that pull versus, what you don't like about where you are currently is really important so that you're doing it for the right reasons. And I think in speaking with you guys and having those, deep conversations and learning more about you guys and your family and, your why, there was definitely a lot of synergy between our stories. And I think the opportunity to really be part of something special and affect people's lives is really one of the reasons why we're in this business. Obviously, we want to make placements, but I think, making a difference in, candidates' lives, clients' lives, and then obviously the patient lives is really what drew me to Thorough Group, because that's what I believe in. And I know that that's where you guys are, what's important to you as well. So that was really the big pull, that brought me here.
Well, Chad, we're glad you made the decision that you did, and we're glad to have you as a part of the team here at Thorough Group. And we're really excited to expand to have really a more personalized, localized, boots on the ground type of approach in the Northeast. I think, now more so than ever, I think we've really come to realize that you can do things globally and remotely and do them very successfully. But I think at the same point in time, there is value to be able to break bread with someone and be able to bring the human back into human capital. I think we've, as we continue with trends with AI and everything is remote and online and, systems and structures and all of these things, which are good and very beneficial, I think, in a lot of ways. I think having that personalized thing, and we're really impressed, Ed, I think, with your, ability to deliver personal relational service. And so You've had a really, long career in the space, right? You've done a lot, you've supported a lot of different companies, and you've seen a variety of different good and bad, along the way. But what continues to really fuel your passion for this industry specifically and the people that are really behind true innovation for patients?
I think the 20 years of again doing this, I've had a lot of great mentors that have kind of like helped and guide me in the right direction. Um, Starting off in my career, it was very generalized staffing. So it wasn't a niche. It was, kind of all over the place. So accounting, finance, engineering, every search was a new search. And you didn't really have the opportunity to build a lasting network of folks that you could call on and really support your clients. So making that transition into life sciences allowed me to really specialize in a specific area, and then build out that network and be able to kind of be the SME for your clients and then be able to help those candidates. So I think that's one of the things that I really like about this business and having it be as specific as it is. I mean, you know, I've I'm of the philosophy that you can't be everything to everybody, and find out what you're good at and nail it. And then if you've gotten people in your network that we all do, and you can help them somewhere else by making an introduction, then it's a win-win for everyone.
As you know, through our many conversations, we also subscribe to being the complete opposite of jack of all trades and master of none. We feel that we bring a tremendous amount of value to our both candidates and clients and the industry as a whole when we're able to kind of have that myopic focus and be that expert, that sounding board. Our candidates, clients, and the industry as a whole is truly yearning for. Um, Chad, as someone that has built successful practices before, what stood out to you about the Thorough Group's approach, and how do you see that impacting clients and candidates in the Northeast and in the market that you've been entrenched for 20 years?
I would definitely say that the companies that we work most closely with, or I've worked most closely with, are those small emerging companies. And so, being at a company like Thorough Group that's small and emerging, we understand exactly what they're going through, right? Every dollar matters. Every hire matters. So making sure that we're relatable to our clients and how you guys focus the business and that model. I think the other thing that's exciting is I've been focused on direct hire. So having the opportunity to be able to provide multiple types of services to our clients, it's an open canvas. So we're able to really structure the the opportunities and the relationships with our clients based on what their needs are and what we can deliver on.
No, that's great, Chad. And I think it's super important to always remember the why. I know you've talked about that a little bit. I love how you mentioned, being agile, like a lot of our small companies are. That we're making decisions that have huge impact, right? And we also understand though that every placement is key. I think you're our first hire as a part of the organization in the Northeast, and so we don't go about that lightly, just like our clients don't. And I think it's so interesting. What we do is such a mission driven work, right? We work with clients that have a mission. Some of the things that I love, about you have, CEOs of some of these small companies who are dealing with a personal situation is why they, went headfirst into finding a cure, finding a treatment, finding any sort of, improvement for life for the people that in their world. And so, I can think of an example, briefly for me. I have a client that I worked with that made an indelible impact on my life when she and I began to speak about her family and how, she was in a different profession and had a child that had childhood cancer. And the only thing that kept their daughter alive for an extended period of time far beyond what the diagnosis was given, was working in clinical trials for new products that were not yet available, on the market as a treatment for their daughter. And it shifted her whole world. She went back to school, quit what she was doing, got a separate degree, and works effectively in a clinical operations leadership role even to this day because it made such an impact on her of the work that was being done for families just like hers. And she said, I want to give back into that space. Is there, a particular story or moment that often reminds you or centers you back to remind you why this work really matters?
Yeah, great question, and I love the story that you shared because everyone's been affected somehow, right? Whether it's Parkinson's or cancer or Alzheimer's, like there's always some story. It's like the Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation, but it's like it's right there. So for me, I actually have two things that kind of come to mind. One is my dad's a hemophiliac, so he's got a blood disorder. He wasn't supposed to live, for much more into his teens, and he's still kicking now. And it's because of the science that he was able to be a part of that he's still here with us. So personally, that's one of the things that kind of drives me. The other one is CF. There was a kid that was affected by CF, and they started doing a golf tournament to raise money. And as the golf tournament continued to go on year after year, he started to show up at the golf tournament, and he would tell you, "I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better," and the Vertex drug is working, and it's a life changer. To the point where I ran into his dad at a travel basketball game in Maine, and we started talking, and his son was playing basketball. So it's just amazing the stories that are out there and how people's lives are affected. Not only the patients, but the families. And that's really why we do what we do. And just to play a small part in that, I mean, I'm not a scientist, but to be able to work with a company or place someone at an organization that's going to make a difference in people's lives is why I do what I do.
We even earlier today we were speaking with a client based in Boston, Chad, and she was just talking about her career path, and we asked the question, "What attracted you to the current company that you're at?" And it really spoke to exactly what you just mentioned. She has a passion for the therapeutic area and specifically the indication that they're working on and the disease state, because there has been some impact there. So I think having such a alignment with this industry and how it's mission driven um, makes those tougher days that much better. The obstacles, the challenges, some of the roadblocks are we're able to navigate around those because we know on the other side of that solutions are being offered to advancing global health. So I couldn't agree with you more. Um, Chad, I know it's just been, about 3 weeks since you've been fully in the saddle. Um, but looking ahead, what are you most excited to build or to cultivate within Thorough Group? Um, and we'll take it a step further, or even within the broader life science community in the Northeast.
I mean, first off, the idea of building something special, we already kind of talked about that, but the idea of how important family is and being a great role model for my kids, and the idea of potentially leaving a legacy for them, is really important. I've got my senior in high school is getting ready to go to college, so figuring out like what direction he's going to go and be able to kind of hopefully push him in the right direction or help him figure out where he's headed. Um, I think that's a big part of it. And then the other piece of it is just being able to be entrenched in the area, right? Like, I mean, I live in Maine, but I'm an hour from Boston. So being able to really go into the city and go meet with clients, be able to meet with candidates, I couldn't be more excited about meeting with you next week at the CMO Summit. It's going to be an amazing event. There's going to be lots of great leaders there, and I'm sure we're going to come away with some amazing stories and ideas. So I think just being here, being present, and being able to kind of like build those face to face relationships are so important. Whether it's immediate or whether it's down the road, just building those relationships and partnerships and forging your reputation and I just think that's so important. So that's what I'm excited about to be able to embark on that with you guys and the Thorough Group. And yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, well, Chad, we're glad to have you as a part of the team, and we're looking forward to, boots on the ground, so to speak, in the Northeast, because I think there are candidates and clients who are ready to be impacted by your service level, by your intentionality, by your integrity, by who you are. And I think what we do is so much more than a transactional business. We have this conversation all the time with clients and with candidates that this is not a transactional business. We are not here to just one done. We made the introduction, shook some hands, and took off. The thorough approach is thorough. It's very detail oriented. It's very individualistic and very specific. And it allows us to not only provide experience for the candidate and for the client, but it also allows us to establish really the things which are part of what attracted us to bring you a part of the team, was that there was a lot of alignment around the intentionality of doing the right thing, no matter what that means for thorough. We're doing the right thing. We're making sure that candidates have the best opportunities. Clients are only seeing the best candidates, and I think you carry a lot of that character with you as well. And so I think in a world where we too often hear about and read about people that are here today and gone tomorrow, flash in the pan, been in recruitment for 2 minutes and aren't stable and consistent. Chad, I think you really exemplify that. And so we're really excited. If you're listening to this and you're part of the community, we'd love to connect you with Chad. If you're in the Northeast, we'd love to be able to make some introductions, and however we can help, no matter what that looks like, we'd love to play a part in that and be able to extend some of those relationships as well. But you know, it's a pretty quick episode today, Jaron, on Thoroughly Thriving. But I think rather than belaboring the point, I think it's so important for us. Part of what we don't often talk about in this podcast is our goal is to both give back, but also allow the audience to get to know us a little bit. And so, you and I have done some podcasts around our core values and around, who we are and why we're, working in the space we're in. And we really wanted to bring Chad on today just to give our audience the opportunity to get to know him a little bit, because being able to put a face to a name and those sorts of things is really, really important. So if there's a way we can, connect, we'll put Chad's details in the podcast. But really our goal today is just to introduce you to somebody we're glad to have a part of the Thorough team here in 2025. But we can't do any of what we do. We can't allow ourselves or anyone else to be thoroughly thriving unless we focus on winning as one and working as one. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you for joining us today for another great episode of Thoroughly Thriving. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to share it with those in your world. If you'd like to learn more about the Thorough Group, please go to thoroughgroup.com. And remember that we will all remain thoroughly thriving if we continue to work as one and win as one.